Hello, this is Josh Patel back again with another biology video. Today we're doing chapter 20, which is plant diversity. And this chapter is very detail oriented in plants, and there's a lot of things that we don't need to know, but we'll go over it anyway. So it's just like a warning basically that if you don't get a certain thing or you see things that are too specific and very detail oriented, just know that you don't have to remember it. Biology is a very broad topic. So 20.1 is just origins of plant life. Our key concept is plant life began in the water and became adapted to land. So as we know, everything evolves and everything changes over time. And at one point, Earth was basically all underwater. So it's saying plants started underwater and became land-oriented. Land plants evolved from green algae. Plants and green algae have many common traits. And as we know, green algae is a plant or something that does photosynthesis, but it lives in the water. So they have many common traits. So they're both photosynthetic eukaryotes. Both have the same type of chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is just the organelle used to do photosynthesis. Both use starch as storage products, so sugar, as their ending of photosynthesis. Both have cell walls with cellulose. So genetic analysis points to the common ancestors of all plants. Extinct green algae species in class Chlorophysia. So modern chlorophysians, common in lakes and ponds. Important plant characteristics likely originated in chlorophysians. Multicellular body allowed for specialization of cell and tissue. So cell division that allowed for chemical communication between cells, okay. Reproduction involving sperm swimming to eggs. True plants evolve through natural selection. So as we know, natural selection is one of Darwin's theories about how things evolve. So ancestral chlorophysians lived in areas of shallow water. Those that could survive longer dry periods were favored. So since they lived in shallow water, and if a drought comes or the tide goes lower, they'll eventually reach the air, and so plants that could survive longer dry periods in the air were favored because they survived more. First true plants probably grew to edges of water. True plants have embryos that develop while attached to female parents. Okay, so true plants evolve through natural selection. This is just showing an evolution tree of how plants came to be. Plants have adaptations that allow them to live on land. Challenges of living on land have selected for certain plant adaptations. So since living on land is different from water, natural selection chose out certain traits that it wanted for plants to live on land. A cuticle allows plants to retain moisture, so it's a waxy waterproof layer that helps it retain moisture in dry land. Stomata are tiny holes in cuticle, so stoma can open and close. These are basically holes on the bottom of leaves, and they release water and they allow air to move in and out. A vascular system allows resources to move to different parts of the plant. Collections of specialized tissue. So the vascular system allows many nutrients and things to basically get all over the plant. So it brings water and minerals, nutrients up from roots. Water and minerals. Okay, so, and it sends sugar down. Disperse sugars from the leaves. So as we know, sugar is made from the leaves where photosynthesis occurs and it has to send it elsewhere. And allows plants to grow higher off the ground. Lignin allows plants to grow upright. So this seems specific, but it's actually something we need to know. And it's basically things in plant cells that help it give it a rigid structure. Hardened cell wall of some vascular tissue. So it's lignin is something in the cell wall that hardens, that makes it hard so plants can grow upright. They don't just sag down all the time and hit the floor. So it provides stiffness to stems. And if you ever ate like celery or something, you notice that when you bite on it, you get like, if you try to rip it apart, it comes in strips. It doesn't like all just break apart. That's because of the cell walls in plants. They keep everything together and they don't break apart separately. Pollen grains allows for reproduction without freestanding water. Pollen grains contain a cell that divides to form sperm. Pollen can be carried by wind or animals to female structures. So pollen is basically sperm of plants, and an animal like bugs, like bees, hummingbirds, they carry the pollen from plants to female plants, and it gets in the female ovaries, and it produces uh, more trees or more plants. A seed is a storage device for a plant embryo. Seed coats protects embryos from drying, wind, and sunlight. So the outer edge of a seed is basically just protection for the embryo. Embryo develops when the environment is favorable. Plants evolve with other organisms in their environment. Plants and other organisms can share a mutualistic relationship. A mutualism is an interaction in which two species benefit. So it's one of the symbiotic relationships we have, and this one is where both of them benefit. Plant roots and certain fungi and bacteria, flowering plants and their animal pollinators. So for example, the flowering plant gets its seeds and pollen spread out so it can reproduce, and the animal gets nectar, or the bees get nectar. So plants have adaptations to prevent animals from eating them. Spines and thorns, as we know, and other defensive chemicals. So 20.2 classification of plants. Plants can be classified into 9 phyla, or into 9 phyla. Mosses and their relatives are seedless, non-vascular plants. Non-vascular plants grow close to the ground to absorb water and nutrients. So as we read before, the vascular system helps plants basically ship things through their body. And some plants do not have this, so they have to grow low to the ground to absorb water and nutrients basically from everywhere. Seedless plants rely on freestanding water for reproduction. Liveworts belong to phylum Hepatoyata. Hepaphoyata. Often grow on wet rocks or in greenhouses, and we don't need to know this. Hornworts belong to phylum. Okay, we don't need to know this either. So a vascular system allows club mosses and ferns to grow higher off the ground. So we don't need to know the specific plants, but we need to know the difference between a non-vascular and a vascular system. So as we know, vascular systems allow plants to, here it says, grow higher off the ground because they can easily ship water and nutrients from the soil up to the leaves and the sugar from the leaves downward. But non-vascular plants don't have this shipment highway in their system, so they have to grow close to the ground and they don't grow as tall or much. So both need freestanding water for reproduction. Club mosses belong to, okay, so we don't need to know that. We don't need to know anything about ferns. Seed plants include cone-bearing plants and flowering plants. Seed plants have several advantages over their seedless ancestors. They can reproduce without freestanding water via pollination. So plants with seeds pollinate and they don't need freestanding water. But other plants that don't have pollen, they do need freestanding water. So like plants underwater don't have pollen. Pollination occurs when the pollen meets female plant parts. See, nourish, and protect plant embryos. So as we see here, this is cactus, and it's showing the wind blowing away all the pollen here. All this smoke-looking stuff is pollen. Seeds allow plants to disperse to new places. So a seed can be carried like really far away and land there and make a new colony of plants. Gymnosperms do not have seed enclosed in fruit. Most gymnosperms are cone-bearing and evergreen. So we need to know what a gymnosperm is. So we have to remember that a gymnosperm does not have seeds or enclosed in fruit. So they basically don't have protection around their seed. So most are cone-bearing and evergreen. We don't need to know that exactly, but it's good to know. The cone is reproductive structure of most gymnosperms. Pollen is produced in male cones. So eggs are produced in female cones. Seeds develop on scales of female cones. So cycads are gymnosperms in phylum that, we don't need to know that, look like palms with large cones grow in tropical areas. We don't need to know that. We don't know about these. So, okay, we need to know what an angiosperm is. An angiosperm has seeds enclosed in some type of fruit. So it has a protection around the layer. You have to maybe make up some mnemonic or something to remember what a gymnosperm and an angiosperm is. Maybe you could say angiosperm seems longer, so it's bigger, so it's enclosed with a bigger thing, because like a fruit is bigger than just a seed by itself, so angiosperm has a fruit enclosing it because it's bigger. I don't know, just make something up. A flower is the reproductive structure of an angiosperm. Okay, that's very important to know. A fruit is a mature ovary of a flower. So as we know, we have a flower at first, and then we get, like, something has to pollinate the flower, and then the flower turns into a fruit. So the fruit is the product of the flower, and so it must be the ovary of the flower because it came after pollination. So in humans, that would be like after fertilization, it would be like a pregnant person. That's what the fruit would be. It's a mature ovary. Angiosperms or flowering plants belong in phylum Anthophyta. We do not need to know that either. Diversity of flowering plants. The largest phylum in the plant kingdom is flowering plants. So flowering plants have unique adaptations that allow them to dominate in today's world. Flowers allow for efficient pollination. Animals feed on pollen or nectar. Pollen is spread from plant to plant in process. So here we have a hummingbird pollinating, or not pollinating, but getting nectar out of a plant, and it's going to spread the pollen. Fruit allows for efficient seed dispersal. Fruit is flowers ripened ovary. Surrounds and protects the seeds. Many forms of each function in seed dispersal. So, botanists classify flowering plants into two groups based on seed type. A cotyledon is an embryonic seed leaf. Monocots have single seed leaves. Leaf veins usually parallel. Flower parts usually multiple of 3. Bundles of vascular tissue scattered in stems. So this is something we need to know. So we have one cotyledon here, and they have parallel veins, so it's like going up and down parallel. And they flower into multiple of 3. So here we have 6 leaves, so it's a multiple of 3. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they have scattered vascular tissues. So they're vascular, like, veins inside of them are scattered out randomly. So this is a monocot, and these are flowering plants with one codon. So this is one thing we need to know. Dicots have 2 seed leaves. Dicots are flowering plants with 2 cotyledons. So we have 2 of these, and then they have gnat-like veins. So here we have them branching out like a tree, I guess. And in the other one, they were parallel. Okay, that's one difference. And then these have multiples of 4 or 5. So basically anything that's not 3. So this is 5, and the other one it was multiples of 3. And they have ringed vascular tissues. So as we see here, the vascular tissues are in circles. So these are dicots. So di is 2. So they have 2 of the seeds, while monocots have 1 seed. Okay, leaf veins usually not like flower in 4 or 5, and bundles of vascular tissues in rings. So flowering plants are also categorized by stem type and lifespan. Stem type can be woody or herbaceous. Wood is a fibrous material made up of dead cells. Wood has high concentration of lineage cellulose. We don't need to know that. Woody stems are stiff, so an oak tree. Herbaceous plants do not produce wood, so they just have like a stem. There are 3 types of plant lifespans. Annuals mature from seeds, flower, and die in 1 year. So annuals come back every year. Well, they don't come back every year. they live for 1 year basically. So biennials take 2 years to complete life cycle. So it does it basically twice. There are three types of plant lifespans: annual, mature from seed to flower in 1 year. Okay, and perennials live more than 2 years. So they basically come back each year. Humans rely on plants in many ways. So this is 20.4 plants in human culture. Agriculture provides stable food supplies for people in permanent settlements. So since humans live in permanent settlements, we don't hunt and gather anymore. We need something to produce food, so we use agriculture. Botany is the study of plants. Ethnobotany explores how people in different cultures use plants. So it's kind of like ethnic, which is like different ethnicities or different parts of the world, and so it explores different cultures, how they use plants. So people started planting for harvest about 10, 10,000 years ago. When species tamed through artificial selection, farming requires people to stay in one place. Farming helps more socially complex centers develop. So if you probably took maybe like human geography or AP world history, you'll probably know a lot about this. Plants produce Plant products are important economic resources. Plant products have been traded for thousands of years. Spices commonly used currency in the Middle Ages. So, okay. Plant products contribute to economy on global scale today. Grains, coffee, sugar, cotton, forest products. So this 20.4 isn't really biology, it's just showing how humans use plants. They're probably not going to ask you anything about it, but it's very interesting. So billions of dollars of plant products traded each year. Plant compounds are essential for modern medicine. Pharmac- Pharmacology is the study of drugs and their effect on the body. And as we know, medicine comes from plants, basically. So pharmacists have to study that too. Many drugs are derived from plants. Salicin from willow trees is used in aspirin. Okay, so this is just an example. Some medical research focuses on properties of plant compounds, studies plant uses medically in traditional cultures, develops synthetic drugs based on plant compounds. So basically, different cultures use plants for different things as well. So that's the end of chapter 20, which is plant diversity. And in this chapter, we learned basically all about plants and all about how they formed and how they came to be and what we use them for. So this was a very interesting and detailed chapter. And come back next time for chapter 21.